Welcome back. Thank you to our amazing students for sharing their stories and for pouring their hearts out in this training for us. Quick check in the chat box. Please write one word of what impacted you the most, what you appreciated, or what you learned from the student panel. So one word for me is that these students are very amazing and they just show us, what true motivation they have. I see resilient, and yes, these students are very resilient. I mean, just imagining all the things that they have gone through, and they just still keep going and still keep showing us how courageous they are. I truly feel humbled and proud to work for them. And yes, they showed their vulnerability, um, and we appreciate that. And we see how all stronger. Thank you all for sharing your words. As we move on, we want to bring attention to the importance of being an undocumented student ally. And for that, I would like to invite sociology faculty, Dr. Hortensia Jimenez. Buenos dias. Welcome.
Well, hi everyone. Good morning. Buenos dias.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay. So I am excited. Miriam, I'm going to share my slides if that's okay.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Everyone can see me? Yes. Okay. Great. Well, thank you all for being part of this training that it's part two. I just want to say briefly that I was undocumented growing up, and I am presenting here as a faculty member, as a person who comes from a privileged position. And I think it's important to put that out there because, that's what the training is going to be about. And the second thing I do want to mention is it's also very important to acknowledge what's happening in our country. What happened in Atlanta with the shootings. And I think it all is very relevant in understanding the social political context of our country and our role in terms of allies. So having said that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I will have some activities, so you're more than welcome to unmute yourself if you want to comment, and also to put it in the chat, and we'll have some time to also share via Kahoot. Okay, so what am I going to cover in this module? We're going to be looking at why context matters, and a brief history of U.S. immigration policy and how that has impacted immigrants, the use of terms, why those matter, and also want to have a conversation about allyship and conceptualizing this and the different, frameworks and which one you identify with. I will also be covering, what are some tenets of becoming an ally, some strategies, and some action steps. So the first thing that I would like to do is invite you to take out your phone if you can, or if you're in your computer, even better. So please go to Kahoot. It's kahoot.com. And we're going to do a activity to find out what are the qualities of becoming an effective ally. Okay, so take a few seconds to log into Kahoot, and I will have a code. And the code will be coming up shortly. Okay, there's the code, 5357068. So we have about 40 participants, excluding myself. So if we get to 35 participants, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for being patient. So we have about half of the participants, a couple more. Okay, I'm gonna do 25. One more, let's get one more person. Okay, I think that's a good number. So we'll go ahead and get started. Yes? Okay, then go ahead and start. Okay, so please type in what are the qualities of allyship, and you have a minute. So we have about 10 more seconds. Okay. So this is what our participants have said. Love, good listening, willing to learn, actively listening, unafraid. Good listener is one of the ones that is coming up the most. Empathy, compassion, support, caring. So I think that there is a lot of overlap between these concepts. And I want you to keep them in mind as we move in the training. Thank you for sharing. Does anyone want to say anything based on our group findings? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I want to provide a brief context of U.S. immigration and anti-immigrant sentiment to understand what it really means to be an ally, taking into account this not only racialized history, but a history of exclusion of immigrants. And I want to begin with the 1970 Naturalization Act. This was passed in 1790, and really what it was, it's very powerful because it set the tone and foundation of who is a citizen in this country, and it was only those who were white and who were free, right? The Chinese Exclusion Act was passed in 1882. This is a significant piece of legislation because for the first time, the United States bans an immigrant group based on race. And it wasn't until like the 1930s, 1940s that the government allowed Chinese to immigrate to the United States legally. The Johnson or Reed Act, also known as the Oriental Exclusion Act, further excludes Asian immigrants from coming into the country. There's a series of repatriation campaigns. Really, repatriation, another way of saying this is deportation of Mexican immigrants. And I put an asterisk there because there have been deportations of immigrants, particularly Mexicans, throughout, you know, 1900s and the 1930s was just one of them. The Titans-McDuffie Act, 1934, also was really a repatriation campaign, specifically targeting Filipino immigrants. And then the Filipino Repatriation Act of 1935. So as you can see, there was a lot of anti-immigrant sentiment in the 1900s and the deportations of immigrants. Then there's sort of like this back and forth where the government excludes immigrant groups, but at the same time, it allows like certain conditions and certain practices to happen. So the Placedo program allowed immigrants to come into the country and work. But at the same time, during this policy, Operation Wetback, even as the title, like some of these I feel uncomfortable writing, like the Oriental Exclusion Act, Operation Wetback, but this is just how it's written. This is how it's, yeah, that's the language used by the government. So Operation Wetback, although further targeted Mexican immigrants. And it's important to keep in mind that in these repatriation and deportation campaigns, it's not only targeting undocumented immigrants, but immigrants in general who are permanent residents and US citizens, because oftentimes some end up leaving with their families back to their country of origin, or they don't have the documentation with them to prove their immigrant status and they're deported back to their country of origin. In the 1950s, the McCarran Internal Security Act was passed. In 1965, the Immigration and Naturalization Act. This piece of legislation is important because it began to establish a family preference system, allowing immigrants to come into the country with, you know, specific requirements. In 1986, IRCA, also known as IRCA, was passed, and it legalized undocumented immigrants, and I am one of those beneficiaries. The 1980s, we see a wave of anti-immigrant sentiment throughout the country, and in California, Prop 187 was passed and later was declared unconstitutional. And in the mid-1990s, again, you know, there's a series of legislation that further tightens not only like immigration control and border enforcement, but also permanent residents immigrants were encouraged to become naturalized citizens because of the new stipulations, specifically with the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act. A lot of the government wanted to strip immigrants of certain public services if they weren't US citizens. Something good in 2006 was the passage of the California Dream Act, AB 130 and AB 135. And again, in the 2000s, we began to see a series of anti-immigrant legislation and sentiment in our country. Alabama, passed HB 56, and this is like between 2010 up until today. And when Trump became president, there was a series of executive orders that he wanted to pass, and that also reflected the anti-immigrant rhetoric and sentiment in our country. And of course, the most recent one was the DHS Regents of the University of California, which sort of put a stall on DACA. And as we now know, that has been rescinded. So this is just a brief overview to set the context of this racialized history of exclusion of immigrants, and it really directly impacts immigrants' sense of belonging in the United States. And also, I think those are us who are working directly and have family members who are impacted by these pieces of legislation. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and continue. I'll check the chat. I don't know if there's any comments, anything you want to add before I continue?
Perdón, doctora Jimenez, we're having a bit of a issue with hearing you.
Oh, okay. Is it better? It's because
and I see that a couple people mentioned that in the chat.
Sorry
about that.
I will be honest. My office is a kitchen, and so I work in the kitchen, and my kids. So let me take these off.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Can you all hear me better?
Hear you now.
Yeah, okay. Like I had said, I had my AirPods on because I'm working from my kitchen and my kids, they're coming in and out, and I didn't want to have you hear any background noise. So I apologize in advance. I don't know if I need to cover anything that you perhaps didn't hear earlier. No, we're good. And maybe Median, you'll help me moderate the chat, right? Okay. So, okay. So moving on, then let's talk about some terms just to make sure we're all on the same, page. Who is an undocumented ally? And these are terms that are used, and I think it's important to know what they are. Undocumented ally, this term is used to refer to people who are not undocumented or had the undocumented experience, who verbally take actions to take a stance to fight with the affected community. So basically, undocumented ally is someone who is not from the undocumented community and who also understands their position of privilege. Undocumented friendly, this is referring to basically spaces, and I think Hartnell is a wonderful example of undocumented friendly institution, and could be workplaces, different institutions in our community that have systems and practices in place that are supported to undocumented students and that they're welcoming to students, not only in their practices, but in their services, in the institutional culture, in the language, etc. And DACAlimited is another concept. This term is used by undocumented individuals who have been granted a DACA. So DACAlimited, similar to Dreamers, sometimes used as a way to navigate away from the negative connotations used on undocumented immigrants. So I think this is important because, we'll talk about some of these distinctions. Some students don't say they're undocumented. They don't even use DACAlimited, but those who do, this is what the term signifies. And undocumented is someone who doesn't have DACA and who doesn't have, any type of legal protected status, is not a permanent resident or a naturalized, US citizen. Okay. So now I want to provide a little bit of context to these terms and to really continue to humanize our DACA students and our undocumented students. We had the privilege and honor to witness and listen to the testimonials that our students shared this morning. They were very courageous, they were vulnerable, they made us cry. And I think like situating their lived experiences and their testimonials within this academic context is important because we can't lose sight of that. I want to share a recent research or article that was published, and it's looking at the experiences of undocumented and DACA students and their narratives of belonging. Just as we heard from our students, I want to sort of point out in a graphic form how our students are navigating these spaces. So on the left-hand side, you see the undocumented immigrants, right, or documented students, fears of deportation, negative emotions, no access, authorized access to opportunities. And I think Carlos had, mentioned that, that sometimes it gets very heavy. Sometimes it becomes very difficult, especially for the students who don't have DACA. Not only are those the challenges, but also the fear, the uncertainty. Okay, for the students who have DACA, the fears is, as you can see, the overlap. The fears are still there, right? The fears and negative emotions, feeling isolated. However, right, they have more opportunities, even though they're limited, right? There's, they're limited resources. And that's in the gray shaded area. Financial aid, there's safe spaces. It's sort of this temporary status. They continue to also feel a sense of not belonging, an uncertain future. And those who are naturalized U.S. citizens or, naturalized citizens, this is important to note too, because even though an undocumented immigrant can go through the different stages of legality, right, of being undocumented to having temporary protected status such as DACA, and then perhaps then a pathway to permanent residence or a U.S. citizen, which has happened. I've known students of mine who have gone through this process and they are, citizens. That doesn't mean that they don't fear, that a family member is going to be separated or they're going to be deported. I want you to understand also that being a naturalized citizen as an immigrant doesn't mean that you're not going to have fear anymore, that you're not going to have these negative emotions, that you're not going to feel that sense of belonging. And I speak from my own experience as well. Every time I go to Mexico and I cross the border, my heart starts pounding. And I always think to myself, why are you so nervous, Hortensia? Like, you're a naturalized citizen. Like, nothing's going to happen. It's difficult. So even though you're a naturalized citizen, you feel a lot of the same emotions that undocumented immigrants face, yet though understanding that you're still in a position of privilege. So I want to sort of put this here as a context to understand that immigrants, undocumented immigrants, and students who are DACA are experiencing, as scholars call it, this space of liminal legality, right? And this liminal legality is not either fully documented or undocumented. In other words, it's a state of transition of ambiguity. So I ask you, if for those of you who are citizens who were born in this country or who are naturalized citizen, if you sometimes feel that you don't belong, or if you feel the imposter syndrome, imagine that added to this feeling of a state of ambiguity that you don't know. Like, you want to plan for your future and you're planning for your future, but yet you don't know what's going to happen, right? And these concepts of liminal legality and liminal state is important because this is how a lot of our undocumented students and DACA students feel. So I like this framework, and it's also from the same article by Venuto and colleagues. And I think Mari Carmen really eloquently talked about this and sharing her experience, how she came to find out that, she was undocumented and that she didn't qualify for financial aid. Every story is unique and different, and there's no one story that is the same. a lot of students or immigrants are unaware of their undocumented status, and they go through this like process of becoming aware. And in the literature, some scholars call them like rites of passage. There's rites of passage, and one of coming of age in the United States. And one of them is like getting your work permit, getting your driver's license, and for a lot of immigrants, this a rite of passage, of getting these things. That's when they become aware that they aren't able to fulfill that, and that they're in this state of liminality. And even though some are they're DACA, right? DACAlimited, they have these protective status and they're able to continue their education and work and so forth, they're still limited, right? So I hope that by sharing this, graphic, it allows us to understand a little bit more of, those experiences of our students. Okay. Do you have any questions? Are there any questions in the chat? Okay. So now let's talk about conceptualizing allyship. Now that we understand a little bit about this historical context of immigration, that we understand our students and these concepts, let's talk about allyship and what does that mean? And there is a lot of conversation in the literature about allyship, right? So I'm going to go ahead and begin with the first one. Allyship is a proactive, ongoing, and difficult practice of unlearning and reevaluating our position of privilege and working alongside our vulnerable and marginalized communities. Another concept that is used is optical allyship. I don't know if you've heard this term before, but optical allyship, think about it as like, I'm watching you, right? I'm looking at you is more of a superficial level, okay? It makes a statement, but it doesn't go beneath the surface, and it's not aimed at breaking away any systems of power, of oppression, or challenging them. Right? So it's basically hearsay. I give my support, but you really don't, do much. You don't take action. Performative allyship is carried out oftentimes on one's social capital or your own interest in terms of your true intention and devotion to, in this case, to work with our undocumented students. So there's different ways that performative allyship can take place. Showing public support on, social media. And it is problematic. These are problematic, right? And I think a good example is Black Lives Matter with the movement. And then you had a lot of individuals, people, corporations, saying that they support Black Lives Matter, but it was just more performative, right? So the intention here is just to show support, but you don't take a stand and you don't take that action privately or, in your practices in these institutions. And the last one, co-conspirator, and another one that is related to that is co-conspiratory. I think I mispronounced these two. But this is actually the most recent one. And what is different between co-conspirator from allyship and the ones that we just covered is that you're acknowledging that people of color are criminalized for taking a stand or for their actions. So if we understand that immigrants are criminalized for the mere fact of already being undocumented, and when they speak out, take a stand, or advocate, they're criminalized for those actions. So a co-conspirator understands that being an ally means that you're choosing, right, to participate in this allyship that criminalizes immigrants, right? And the last part of this concept is that It also acknowledges white supremacy, racism, and discrimination and oppression, and works actively to dismantle this so that immigrants are not criminalized. So having covered these concepts or conceptualizing, I'm inviting you now to Kahoot because I want to see your thoughts as well. So let's go ahead and go to Kahoot. So that way we can find out which of these terms you prefer. Or you can also type them in the chat if you don't have Kahoot. Uh-oh. Apologize. Let me go back home. So you can type them in the chat or you can go ahead and join. I will give you the code in a couple seconds. Okay. So either type it in the chat or go ahead and log on to Kahoot. So thank you for joining. And if you don't want to join Kahoot again, feel free to type it in the chat. I'll let you know the question in a minute. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Okay. So what term do you feel more comfortable using? Type it in the chat or use Kahoot. Okay, so allyship. Is there anyone who would like to unmute themselves and share a little bit about what we have just covered? Or you can also send me a private message. Thank you. Okay, so now that we talked about some of these ways that allyship is conceptualized, I want to focus now specifically on the literature coming from and by undocumented immigrants and what they see as an ally. Okay. So an ally acknowledges that undocumented students have the right to be enrolled in the university, basically that they have the right to an education. Becomes informed about the rights afforded to DACA students, right? So I think that was also noted at my first Kahoot activity, and it's like, what is an effective ally? And, you know, some of you have mentioned, you know, being informed. Finds legal alternative ways that assist students to meet academic prerequisites. It also goes along with the second bullet point. believes that children and youth ought not to be targets of anti-immigrant discrimination, knows that because of negative attitudes toward undocumented immigrants and the lack of legal rights according to children and youth who are undocumented, that a person who has legal status has more power. Again, we're going back to understanding that even in within mixed status families, where you have a parent who might be a permanent resident, a mother who might be undocumented or a U.S. citizen, and have children who are undocumented, that's a mixed status family, that there are different layers of power there, and the person who has a legal status has power. I really like this one because it really resonates with a lot of your responses from our Who activity in the first time. Listen, sometimes we don't even need to say anything. All we need to do is just listen and not judge and not give advice when it's not requested. It's important not to out the student without their permission or share their information of their undocumented status, because that's very private and very vulnerable information. Does not encourage students to act on anything that might jeopardize their safety. And I know that there's a lot of opportunities for our students in the community to get involved. And we have to be careful, like, is doing a background check going to affect them? Is taking them to a particular agency, or I don't know if they want to do an internship in, I don't know, at the DA's or at the police station or sheriff or other places. We need to be aware that that might somehow jeopardize them or affect them. So, we need to be informed as educators. Creates a climate of trust that allows students to reveal their situation. That's only if the student wants to, right? So creating this climate of trust is knowing your student, is reaching out to your students and letting them know that you're there for their academic success, but that you also care about who they are as individuals. Handle students' emotions with reserve, empathy, and support. And, also seeks that professional support that we ourselves can't offer, right? So, most of us are not therapists, we're not trained. And so let's have those experts help our students. So making those referrals, and oftentimes we might need to walk them, right? Virtually walk them to the wellness center that we have in Hartnell, for those services. Follows up on referrals. So it's not only these are the programs and services, and here's a list, or here's the number, but follow up with the students, see how else you can also support them and advocate for them. And you're clear about your personal motivation for becoming an ally. So think about why you're here. Why are you taking this training? Right. So I hope that by the end of today, our workshop, you have a lot more clarity. Okay. And you're committed to maintaining their confidentiality and respecting their privacy. And we have to, right, legally, but of all of our students, especially for those who come from marginalized communities. So now, what I'm going to do is show you a visual way of becoming an ally. And there's 4 levels of becoming an ally to undocumented students. And again, I'm using the information here. My source is coming from the Dream US. So the first one of becoming an ally is awareness. And this awareness is opening yourself to the possibility that some of the students in your class are undocumented. This awareness of, becoming informed, taking these types of trainings, right? The awareness that our students are not monolithic, that each of our students is unique, has a unique experience, a story, and their challenges are unique. Yes, there's a lot of similarities, but it's important to become aware of what are some of those differences. So attending trainings, reading about DACA, reading about the latest, legislation, or, just being informed, being educated on what's happening to our undocumented students. Second is knowledge, which, ties into the awareness. They overlap. That's why these are intersecting. Begins to understand policies and laws and practices and how they're affecting our undocumented students. Just as we covered earlier, like there's this short history of immigration, anti-immigrant sentiment. How can we be allies to our students if we don't understand this like long history of systematic exclusion of immigrants and how that affects their sense of belonging and in real terms of what they are able to do in the United States? And number 3, skills. Take your awareness and knowledge to communicate with others. You can acquire these skills by attending these types of workshops, role playing, talking to your colleagues, your peers, developing support networks. Basically is once you become knowledgeable and aware, what are you going to do, right? How are you going to use these skills into the last one, which is action, okay? So it is amazing and wonderful that you're taking this training, but what are you going to do, right? And because becoming an ally is not an identity. Becoming an ally is taking action. So what are some of those actions that you're going to take? And you can put like doing these trainings is one, but what else? If you're a faculty, what are you going to do in your teaching, in your pedagogy? If you're a classified staff or you're an administrator, what are some of the actions that you're doing for students? And I think that at Hartnell College, we're doing a great job. And, there's always a lot of work ahead and different ways that we can continue to improve our support for our students. Okay. So this is what I just covered in boring and our fonts. And now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over. If you don't have any questions, we'll open it up for questions actually. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my sharing and open it up for any questions, any comments as we prepare to transition to our allyship scenarios. And the reason why we want to do this is to actually put into practice some of the content that we have just learned. So we're going to move into our allyship scenarios, but I do want to ask you if you have any questions or anything that you want to add before we do.
I just have, I don't know if it's a question or a comment. This is Monica, and I have, my other job is doing outreach in different colleges, and at times I would meet with students who are upset and they say things like, well, I don't qualify for financial aid. I wish I was an undocumented student. How do you address those feelings?
So that's actually perfect. If you don't mind, what about we do this? When we go into our breakup group right now,
Yes.
You'll have a scenario, address the scenario and also have this conversation with your peers. And when we come back to the larger group, you can share that and discuss what was shared in that space.
Thank you.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we're going to have between 5 to 7 minutes. I know it's not a lot of time. I miss you all and I want to chat with you all and check in, but we're going to get to work right now. Okay, so 5 to 7 minutes. Join your group.
There will be a link to a document in the chat right now, which has real life scenarios. So some of these are more complex and more challenging than others. These are all real scenarios that have occurred within our learning community at Hartnell College. So they're a bit challenging. We encourage you to just stretch yourself, pick one scenario and focus on that. And then we'll be debriefing when we come back together.
Thank you, Brown. And yes, and Medium is including that in the chat, correct?
That's right, Dr. Jimenez. It was broadcasted to all groups. Okay.
So you can go ahead and join your group and you can click on the scenarios on the Microsoft Word. If you have any challenges or issues, please go ahead and raise your hand and we'll come to your group.
How do we go to our breakout room?
You should have already received an invitation. If you missed the invitation and you click on the three dots on the bottom right, you should be able to see a prompt that says join a breakout room.
Okay. I think someone else is asking for the breakout room.
Yeah, there's an icon with 4 boxes. If you click on it,
Oh, there we go. Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Cool.
They're saying that they can't click on the document in the breakout rooms.
Oh, that's odd. Miss Adriana, any suggestions?
I wonder why not.
once they're in the breakout rooms,
Uh-huh.
I don't think they're able to access the chat anymore, like the live
Okay.
chat. So
So how do we?
unless each of us goes and how many breakout rooms do we have?
6.
Unless each of us goes into it, copy and pastes the document.
Okay.
See?
And let me
Yes.
just put it in the general chat.
Yeah, and then we can also just put it in on a regular computer to go directly to it.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
So I'll join group 1 and 2.
Okay. And then
Miriam, I'll join.
I'm in one. You added me to one.
Okay.
So I'll go into 2.
Okay. So then I'll do number 3 and number 4. And then Bronwyn, I'm not sure which one you're in.
Hey, Miriam, can we get the scenarios again? My group, we're in group 4. We couldn't get them.
So we just shared it. We realized that you guys can't click on the link. So we just shared it right here in this chat. So maybe if you copy and paste and then go back, that could help.
Okay.
Mr. Pettis, is that the same thing that you experienced? Okay.
Okay, yeah, I got it. I'll go share it with my group.
What
Thank
group are you in?
you. We got group number 1, and then I'm not sure. So number 1 got it.
Okay, I think Miriam went into
She
3.
went into the different rooms. Okay. I can't navigate between the rooms because I was only assigned to room 1. So,
I know, I got the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
I'm
Hi,
hoping-
Mr. Perez. Thank you so much for being here. It's always a pleasure to see you in our trainings. We're so thankful for you.
Oh, I wouldn't miss these. I love these. Hi, Bronwyn. How do I
Hi.
get back in the meeting room?
Let me see. I think Miriam.
I'm in 3.
Thanks, Bronwyn.
Sorry.
It's all good. We got it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, I can't go back. I can't. Thanks.
Now you're stuck with us. Hey?
Was he able to go back into his room?
Yeah.
Not yet. I haven't.
Huh, that's weird. I
I
can't.
only have the leave option on my screen.
Oh, you know why? Because you left the meeting, so you technically didn't get reassigned to your group.
Okay.
I'm
in 3.
Let me see if I could since I'm just the co-host, I'm not able to assign anyone. But let me
Miriam.
put Miriam right back.
Okay. So do I go to 6 or 3 where I was before?
I think as long as we get you into a discussion, Mr.
Okay.
Perez, Just join. Sorry.
All right, because
Sorry about
three
that.
wasn't
Yeah,
able to
yeah,
get
yeah.
into the.
Yes.
So just somebody make sure that 3 can get the link.
Wait, take it with you. Wait, how do we get it to him?
I'm taking it to 6, but I was in 3, and I don't know if they have.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Perez.
Okay, we have, I think Fatima maybe left and then she might want to join the. Hi, Miss Fatima. Did you get kicked out of your breakout room or are you just joining us?
I'm barely joining.
Okay, got it.
Miss Fatima is joining us as a presenter. So I don't know if she was able to get the context of what was being shared. So we can send you into a breakout room, Miss Fatima, or if you would like, you can wait for us here. The participants are currently in an activity in regards to becoming an ally or being an ally, and then they're working on scenarios.
Oh, okay. So then after, if I get placed in a breakout room, then I'll be sent to the main session, or they're gonna come back here. This is the main session.
Yeah, this is the main session.
Oh, okay. Yeah, however, it's fine. I can be put in the breakout room. That's fine.
Okay, thank you. The conversation in breakout room number 6 is going very well. I'm excited, that all of our participants, we all done this. This is our 3rd time, but all of our participants are in a breakout room today. And I went in through 3 different groups and they're all chatting, they're talking about the scenarios. Oye, no me fijé a qué horas eran los 5 minutos. So give them like another 4, ¿verdad? I think it's been a good 3-4 minutes already, or probably more. No te oigo, Adriana.
Sorry. I think it's been about 4 minutes, just because Bronwyn last shared the link at 10:59, since a lot of them came back. Some of them.
So that's odd. So how come they couldn't click on the?
Maybe because they thought they, I don't know how it looked, but they could have maybe copied and pasted.
I see. Oh, it's okay. Well, it was solved, and in some of the groups that I went to, people had already returned on their own to just get the link.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That student panel was so amazing.
I know. Yeah, I saw a few people that I like to see everyone's reaction. And so at first I was like a little lost. I was like, oh no, I'm just gonna stop sharing. And then I just get feedback from reactions. So, and people nodding or crying. I saw a couple people crying.
Yes.
So I think it went really well. Very good job, Miriam.
Oh no, pues you were doing the moderating. I think if anything, it's between you and Miss Daisy, because I really didn't select the participants. It was a voluntary. I invited the entire Mi Casa program, but then they 4 reached out. Oh yeah, I got emotional because Mirna was there. But Carlos, really got to me.
Yeah, Carlos. Yeah, I think a couple times he stopped, or his video, or you felt him choking up, and I was like,
yes.
I was like, your mom would be proud. Your mom is proud, but
yes, it was beautiful, huh?
I had to keep it so professional, but I was just like, yes.
All of them did an amazing job.
Yeah. Even Adriana, if she didn't, we couldn't visually see her, she was able to, I think we were able to connect with her. So, yeah.
Yes. Lo que pasó con ella es que ella se enfermó, but she still wanted to follow through. So she's been sick for a couple of days now.
Oh.
But she didn't want to cancel her commitment.
That's
No quería mirarse malita.
oh, yeah.
Oh, I think it's time, ¿verdad?
I think so, yeah.
Close them y darles ese minute warning, ¿verdad?
Mhm.
Okay. Does it give them a warning or
Yeah.
just us? Okay.
Them. Mhm. Yeah, it's like a pop-up that says like, oh, you know, this meeting will end and the breakout room will close y todo eso. Welcome back.
I think we have mostly everybody back. Not sure that I see Dr. Jimenez yet.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Miriam, for facilitating the breakout rooms. You want to continue?
Yes. So at this moment, we would like to invite participants to share if they chose a specific scenario and how did your team resolve it. Is there anyone who would like to go first?
I'll do room 6. We talked about number 5, which is the one when and it led into the discussion about what to do when people want to know about going to college. And this, I live in a small apartment complex, and without telling the whole story, I had almost an exact same situation where people who live in my complex, who were not college people, knew what I did at Hartnell, came and talked to me, and we talked about the importance of being out there in the community. So I always carry my Hartnell business cards with me. And when I find young people who I run into, just ordinary. I see Ms. Gonzalez is nodding her head. She's seen me work the room when I want people to think about going to, yeah. See that smile? She has been the subject of that as well. So I hand out my business cards and tell people, oh, have you ever considered coming to Hartnell? And this would be something that you can do. And say, if you have any questions about what to do about going to Hartnell, here's my email on here. Send me an email to college and I'll be glad to talk to you as well. So number 5 was about, in my view, was about how we in our community can go out and say, here's an opportunity and going to college can be a great step. Here's my card. Here's some information. You can put the face to this, email me. Let's talk about your options as well.
Thank you, Mr. Calvert. That goes to show, that we're all at different stages of being an ally, and there's various things that we can do to support our students, and it starts with the small things, and those small things can make a change in the student's life. Anyone else who would like to share?
I like I could jump in, and it's not what we talked in the group. It's more like a personal experience. And Peter, what you said is so important because I remember myself when I came to this country, I didn't speak English. So I went to a community college to learn English. And I was sent to take bookkeeping and medical assistant courses, which I did take. And it wasn't until I met with a counselor who was a person of color who told me, well, you could go to the university. And I didn't know I could. And then it took one person to believe in me to to make my head open, you know, to do things. So that is so important that you use your knowledge in your community, with your neighbors, with anyone. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you so much for sharing, Monica, your personal experience. Again, it goes to show that all those small actions that we take as allies matter to our students and to the community, like you said. Anyone else willing to share?
In my case, when I looked over the list of the scenarios, 4 of the 6 of them I have personal experience with. And so I'm a bit biased, I suppose, in my experience. I think that really it goes back to some of the things that Carlos and Skylar and Adriana and Mari Carmen were saying. If you step away from your role as maybe an authority figure or an instructor and just treat the person in front of you like a person, you know, this could be your son, your daughter, your best friend, your companion, and you're just trying to help another person. But it does matter that you have some knowledge about the legality of what you say and the consequences to those persons. When I have had, you know, a father talk to me about her daughter and what options she has. I have had a student talk to me about feeling like they have to quit college, quit school to support the family, even though they're doing well in school. You know, I've been there myself. And so as you do, as Peter was just saying, and as Monica was just saying, if you treat the person like a person, you know, and you have the knowledge in you about what not to say, what you can't advise, and that you make sure that they understand that there are some things that they can't do, but there are some things that you can do for them. That makes a huge difference.
Thank you so much for sharing. Yes, we need to always remember that our students are humans, that they have a heart, that they are persons that have feelings. And for us, we need to stay informed and continue to grow and continue to attend trainings as this and other trainings that will keep us aware of what is going on and what we can say and what we cannot say. Thank you all for sharing. Thank you all for participating in this important activity. Thank you, Dr. Jimenez, for highlighting an important part of our roles as educators and guiding us. Thank you for being a strong advocate and an ally for our Hartnell undocumented students and Mi Casa.
I'm Barbara. I do have one comment that kind of came to my mind right now. Learning ability of some students can affect all students, not only DACA or Dreamers. But if a student is going in and has trouble with comprehension, understanding, you do need to step away from your title and be a little more understanding, not be so impatient and judgmental and say, this, you know, telling yourself this student is wasting my time, no tiene interés, and I'm not going to help if they don't ask. I say this because I did have an experience helping a student, a high school student, going in, and the person that was assisting them did just that. Like, I'm not gonna speak if the student doesn't ask questions. And I thought, well, that's not right. You're here to guide and help the student, especially the first year, guide them. You're not here to judge whether they're showing motivation or not. The fact that they're sitting there at a college means they're interested. You know, they're gonna be maybe intimidated, maybe again slower to learn. Maybe they were in an IEP before in high school, and you know, there's a lot of things we don't know. So sometimes you do have to step away. Everything is not so cut and dry and clear.
Yes, thank you. Definitely for touching on that. It is important, our students are already making an effort in taking that first step and being here at a big institution, which they're not accustomed to perhaps, and where we are all strangers to them. So I think you mentioned a good point in terms of us, we are the professionals here. We also need to do our part in supporting our students. Thank you for that, Barbara. And thank you, Dr. Jimenez, again for your words and your guidance in doing this work. The transition from secondary to higher education can be intimidating, as we have heard from our students. This is why it's important to work directly with those behind the scenes of this important occurrence. The information that we have shared throughout these 2 days of training may seem out of scope, but like Barbara mentioned, we all have to sometimes step out of our roles and change our hats. That's why we want to highlight on the importance of being aware of the processes of our undocumented students, things that they have to go through in order to be able to access higher education. I would now like to welcome our Dean of Enrollment Services, Maria Ceja.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for being here, receiving this training, which is extremely important in the effort to continue to support our undocumented students here at the college. Any training helps in supporting the students, providing resources, and providing a safe space so that they can continue to come to you and ask for resources, because we know that our undocumented students tend to navigate higher education on their own. And so it's extremely important that we provide resources to them. The presentation that I'm going to share with you is in regards to the services that we have available in the Admissions and Records Office, but I'm going to primarily focus on important legislation that was passed to allow our undocumented students to be able to receive in-state tuition. And so that's primarily, I'm going to cover some of those legislations to help you understand. So as you speak with students, you can refer them to, you may qualify for this, or here's some resources. And I am a resource for students. If you don't remember a name in the Office of Admissions, you can direct them to me and I'll be more than happy to assist the students. Next slide, please. There's 3 key pieces of legislation, starting with the first one, which was first passed in 2001. And this is for it's called AB 540, Assembly Bill 540, which essentially grants undocumented students that attended a California high school for at least 3 years and received a diploma to qualify for to receive in-state tuition. So that means paying the $46 per unit, rather than paying the very high prices of students that could potentially pay out-of-state tuition, which could be in the thousands of dollars. And this legislation was extremely important because it allowed our undocumented students to be able to receive and qualify for in-state tuition. However, even though many students did qualify, we know that a lot of our undocumented students come at different stages of their life. And so this legislation was not inclusive enough to encompass a large amount of the undocumented student population. So in 2014, an added legislation was passed, and this was Assembly Bill 2000, which expanded AB 540 to allow students to utilize other types of educational coursework to achieve those 3 years that is required for AB 540. And so through AB 2000, students can use a combination of their high school, middle school, elementary schoolwork to fulfill those 3 years. And it's extremely important that they have that. In the Office of Admissions, that's what we're looking for. And we can take a look at what courses they took, what time frame what they enrolled in, and we can help the students make those determinations as well. Next. The most recent legislation that passed was Senate Bill 68, And Senate Bill 68 expands AB 540 and AB 2000 to allow undocumented students to use credits earned perhaps at an adult school, to use some of those credits. So like they do courses, that we use some of those hours that they earned at the adult school. And also perhaps they don't have a combination of all the high school, elementary, middle school, adult school. Students also have the potential to use courses that they've taken at the community college to count towards the credits needed to achieve in-state tuition. And what we see oftentimes with students is that they may not qualify when they're gonna be starting. And it's important that we have a conversation with the students so that we can inform them about other options that they perhaps may be able to qualify for. Next. And so I'm not sure how many of you are aware of this, but here at Hartnell College, we have a policy. It's called AP 5030, which allows any student, regardless of immigration status, to be able to take up to 6 units at the in-state rate, which is $46. So it's important, like if you're having a conversation with the student, they may be concerned, they don't know if they qualify for in-state tuition, let them know that they could qualify up to 6 units and pay the $46 per unit, which is extremely important. Once they go above that though, if they don't have a residency status that is in state, they will be charged out-of-state fees for all their courses, not just that 1 unit that they went over perhaps. So it's extremely important. So as you're working with students, we want students to submit, there's a document called the non-residency tuition exemption form. And this document is most often in one of the next pages, is a document that they have to submit to our office, the Office of Admissions, so that so they just submit the non-residency tuition exemption form along with a copy of their high school transcript so that we can verify, you know, the courses and the amount of time that they attended at school. And if they don't qualify, we let the student know, you know what, you don't qualify, or here's other requirements that you have that you still need to meet. So it's very, very important that the students submit that as soon as possible, because we often find, or the students often find, that they're paying very higher fees later on once they register for courses and they see their bill. It's not too late at that point to get their status corrected, but it's extremely important that as soon as the student applies or is thinking about registering for courses, that they submit the required information so that later on, for some unfortunate reason, they'll be stuck with a higher cost than we would have wanted the student to have. Next. And so extremely, extremely important for everybody to know that the Admissions and Records Office has staff that are trained to specifically support the undocumented students navigate higher education. We care for our students, and we know that we tend to be a first stop for a lot of the students. And we know also that our students, especially our undocumented students, might be not wanting to share about their status. And so oftentimes we have to read in between the lines, what is the student trying to tell us, so that we can better support the students. Our staff, our front counter staff, are trained for both admissions and records and financial aid. And so we provide, we try to provide as much information that can help the students navigate not only the admissions and records financial aid process, but also other resources that might be available for campus. We have a partnership with Mi Casa. And so we have an undocumented student or something like that, we make that referral and say, you know what, let's contact Medium or Brownwind or somebody in that office that can help you or support you in any way that we might be able to assist you. Because we know that students sometimes they don't even know the questions to ask. And as a first generation college student, I can say for myself, oftentimes you're afraid to ask or don't even know what you should be asking. And so it's important that we acknowledge perhaps the struggles or what is the student trying to say so that we can better support the students. Also important, before you go on to the next slide, is that when the students submit their California Community College application to be admitted into the college, the application, because it's a standard application to serve all the students, it asks questions regarding Social Security number. And this, from the get-go, we understand that it could be a challenge and a barrier for students, kind of like perhaps already a barrier to say students, perhaps, this might not be a place for you. But I want everybody to understand that the Social Security number question is optional and the students do not have to fill it out. So it's very, very important that if they don't have one, they can leave it blank, and it's completely okay to do that. So that's extremely important. And the form that I was mentioning earlier, you can see it in the second, on the last bullet point, is the non-resident tuition extension form. And so just a reminder, if you're working with any student, tell them to submit it as soon as possible so that we can help them get their tuitions, the residency status corrected. So very, very important. Last slide. And then the last piece is we have, since we've been in the pandemic, we know that it's extremely difficult sometimes for students to get a hold of our office. So we have different ways that we've made ourselves available to students. We have a Zoom virtual front desk where the students can access the website from the admissions and records page, main page, and also the main page for financial aid. And they can ask any questions. We have professional staff that can answer any of the questions that students have. If it's a simple question, how do I register for my classes? I don't know. Why haven't I not received my financial aid? Or how do I apply for financial aid? Any kind of question that the student might have, we are able to assist them via this virtual front desk, kind of like what we're doing now. We also have our phone that the students can answer any kind of questions. And also our office email has become the primary way on how we receive documents from students. So if the students have any questions, they can email us, and we're on it. We're up to date with our email. So they might receive a response within a couple of hours. So it's very important they can submit any documents. And I forgot to include it in here, but we also have a chat bot. And this chat bot is, the students can access it 24/7. If you go to our main page for admissions and records, financial aid, even counseling, DSPS, there's this chat bot that students can type in any kind of question, and they'll receive an answer. And if the chat bot, if it's an uncommon question, we'll get it to our email, and we can craft a response for that student. And so we have different ways to try to assist and support our students. Lastly, I just want everybody to, as you're working with students, encourage the students to reach out to the admissions and records office or the financial aid office. And with any kind of questions, we have specific people that work with our undocumented student population, but all of our staff are now trained to better support them and just help them navigate, because we understand that navigation is a critical component, and we want the students to feel comfortable to seek assistance so that we can help them achieve a greater sense of belonging at the institution. That's all I have for you. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Thank you, Dean Ceja, for highlighting on important information as our students join Hartnell. It's very critical that we all understand these processes, and thank you for making yourself available for all of us as we continue to learn how to support undocumented students. And now I would like to welcome Ms. Fatima Barron Vargas from our Financial Aid Office.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was muted. Good morning, everybody. My name is Fatima Barron Vargas, and like Miriam mentioned, I do work at the Admissions and Records and Financial Aid Office, and I am an enrollment service specialist. I assist students. I'm one of the persons that assists students with both admissions and records questions, as well as financial aid. Like Maria mentioned, about registration, about classes, about scheduling, as well as, where's my financial aid, what documents do I need to turn in, what types of aid do I qualify for. So I assist students with both. And today we're going to be talking about some resources that Dreamer students can access for financial aid. It is, financial aid can be a very daunting or scary process for many students. So we try to make it as our staff as accessible as possible and as easy for them to as well. As well, I was a first year college student myself, so I know how scary it can be, but it's again, especially with financial aid, which it's a whole new process for many of our students. So let's get started. Next slide. Oh, sorry, the one before that. So there are different ways that students can access or ask questions at the financial aid office. We also have a virtual front desk, and once shelter in place came into play, excuse me, we were using Cranium Cafe, but we recently switched to the Zoom, and we found out that it's actually a lot of students are using it, and it's a great resource for them because many of the students do prefer that speaking one-on-one with someone, if they have more than one question, it just gives them that opportunity to express their concerns, get their questions, answered. It's been a great way. I actually do the front desk, and it's been very busy, but it's also been a great experience because, students have, while it's not in person, it feels like in person to them because they are having their questions answered and getting updates on their financial aid as well. We also have the phone number. We do let students know that over the phone, we can't answer personal questions, only general questions, because we do need to verify their identity. So we can't answer personal file questions, but they can call us to ask us general questions. And we also have a financial aid email, which also became our main source of communication at the beginning of shelter in place. And when it's too busy, we do let students know. We have a disclaimer. It can take up to 1 to 3 days, 2 to 4, depending how busy we are. Everybody at the financial aid office works on the email every day. We try to get it as down as possible. Right now, it's kind of a slow time for us, so it's not too hectic, not too busy, but it can get pretty busy. But whichever form works best for students to communicate with us, feel free to guide them our way, send them our way. Next slide. Okay, so supporting our undocumented students. So our main purpose is to provide resources for the students to navigate college. Again, it's a new experience. Many of them are doing it on their own. So we want them to feel as comfortable and safe as possible. They can ask questions, they can come to our office, again, whether it be for admissions or financial aid. Many of our financial aid specialists have worked there for many years and are very knowledgeable. We also have trainings all the time. We have to keep ourselves updated with all the changes because financial aid does have constant changes. Legislation's being passed right now with the COVID situation. Many things changed in the office, and our staff is always, our dean and our director try to keep our staff as updated on the changes and receiving all these trainings, just so that we can share that knowledge with the students. And like Maria did mention, The non-resident tuition exemption is very important for students to submit. Why? Because this will determine how students get billed. And unfortunately, we have had some students, who come to school their first years and they're coded incorrectly in the system. They're coded as an out-of-state student, and they have those fees, and they see the fees, and sometimes again because they're afraid to ask questions, or they don't know where to go, those fees stay there, and then it just creates a situation more overwhelming than it should be for the student. So we want the students, to feel they can come to us. And if you guys work with students as well, do you know any student, that sees that they have high fees, or, you just want to make sure that they're coded correctly in the system, this form is very, very important because it will allow us to see if they qualify as a non-resident, but with the California tuition, like Maria mentioned. Next slide. So some of the programs that are available for our Dreamer students is the California Promise Grant. So this one is a fee waiver. It's not a cash award, but it does cover the cost of classes. So instead of paying for the 412 units, 1046, they only pay $12 for their classes, which is the student activity fee. They also have access to the Salinas Valley Promise program, which, as many of you know, offers 2 years of free tuition regardless of income. They also have the resource of either selecting money for books, a computer, as well as mentorship. So that's a great resource for students. And they also have access to the Cal Grant. So the Cal Grant is one of the awards that many students often receive if they qualify. This is actually cash financial aid that they can use for books, supplies, or anything that they need. There are different types of Cal Grants. There's Cal Grant A, B, and C. And which one they qualify for depends on their application. So CSAC, which is the administration that oversees the Cal Grant, when a student submits a DREAM Act application, they have a point system. So they determine, based on how students answer their questions on the DREAM Act, which Cal Grant they qualify for. As well as it's also based on academic merit. So they'll also look at their GPA, which is also very important. Along with the Cal Grant, the Student Success Completion Grant is also a cash award. And this one is contingent of a student receiving the Cal Grant. So if you receive a Cal Grant B or C, students can receive the Student Success Completion Grant as well. And this grant is for students who take at least 12 units or more, can be up to $4,000 additional money that they receive. We also have the Chafee, which is for our foster youth. It's also a cash award, additional money that students can use. EOPS as well, and then scholarships that they can apply. So we have a general scholarship in the office. It's just one application, and once they submit that application, they are reviewed and considered for different types of scholarships. So they don't have to submit different applications for different scholarships. It's just one application, and whichever one they qualify for, they are awarded that scholarship. Next slide, please. So this is an overview of sometimes when students, come in and they're not sure which application or to submit, the DREAM Act or the FAFSA. I'm not going to go much into detail of reading the whole chart, but usually, the way to know is by asking the student. There's different ways to approach it to a student. I know the chart says, are you a U.S. citizen or permanent resident? However, we try to frame the question in a way that we know will make the student feel comfortable. So some students, are completely comfortable. They feel fine disclosing the information, some don't. So you just have to, it's a case-by-case basis, how you approach the question or the situation with the student, so that they know if they do fill out the DREAM Act application or not, or the FAFSA. So often things to look at is, if they're residents or a U.S. citizen. And then it goes a little bit more into detail, if they say, well, no, I am not a resident or a U.S. citizen, then that's when we have to do our due diligence and ask the right questions. Of course, making the student feel safe and comfortable at all times, because some students, they don't meet those AB 540, SB 68, or AB 2000 requirements. so they don't qualify for the DREAM Act because they haven't completed those 3 years of schooling, they haven't graduated from a high school or an adult school. So it's always, working on a case-by-case basis and just sensing, how is the student feeling so that you're asking the right questions and making the student feel comfortable. But if they ever have any questions or if you're working with a student and they're not too sure, just come to the financial aid office. We can definitely answer those questions for you. And this is what we're here for, to answer, and take care of any concerns that the student might have. Next slide, please. So the way for students to apply for aid is by submitting the DREAM Act application. So the website is, as it states there, dream.csac.ca.gov, excuse me. And if they are new, you want to go ahead and, have them start the process. They do have to create what's called a username and a password, which is very easy and very quick. And then once they create that, they do have to make sure that they write that down, because a lot of students think that they're going to remember it, but they don't. So then they have to retrieve it. And it can just be, a situation that can be avoided, trying to retrieve all of that. So when I work with students, I always say, take a picture, write it somewhere down, because, you might forget it and you just want to have it just in case. And once they create that username, they go ahead and log in and begin the application. And this is something that we actually also help students at the Zoom for Encounter. I've helped a lot of Dreamer students with it because, again, sometimes they do feel lost with the process or scary, or some questions. There is a lot of questions on the application, so it can be a little bit overwhelming. So we do help them with that. We used to, of course, have in-person workshops every Monday, but with the whole shelter in place and the campus being closed to the public, we are not able to. But through Zoom, they have a student that has questions and wants to get assistance. We do it through that means of communication. Next slide, please. So who is eligible to apply? So students who are undocumented, U visa, and DACA, but they must meet the AB 540, AB 2000, or SB 68 eligibility. Don't want to get too technical on it because, again, there's been other situations, where students says, well, I am actually a refugee or I'm on asylum. So in those situations, we always, want the student to come and ask. And again, if you're working with a student and you're not sure yourself, refer them to our office. We have one of our really great specialists. Her name is Lainey Chavez, who works specifically with our Dreamer students, and she can answer any questions, as well as any of the other staff, of course. But I did want to bring up her name since she does work directly with all of the our students' files. Next slide, please. So once students submit the DREAM Act application, CSAC does require schools, either the high school or the college, to submit what's called a GPA verification. Again, because the Cal Grant is academic merit award, they do look at the GPA that the student received. So for the recent high school graduates, their high school is responsible for submitting it. So once they're on their senior year of high school, they have to do this automatically. It's usually, I believe, the counselors or high schools have an assigned staff member who does it. But when it's recent high school graduates, the high school does it. They have to submit it to be considered for the Cal Grant. If a student comes and attends Hartnell, they must, for us to submit it, the student must have completed at least 24 units with us. If they have less than 24 and they're attending Hartnell, so for example, if a student comes in and they have taken a total of 12 units or 15 units, even though they're a student with us at this point, we cannot submit it. They need to have at least 24. So they have to go back to their high school and let them know that they need the GPA verification submitted. Again, most high schools do this automatically, but there are some situations where for some reason, some students, CSAC didn't receive it for some students. And if they don't meet that 24 units completed with us, then we can't do it. It has to be the high school. We also automatically do it. We do get a lot of students. CSAC reminds students around this time of the year before the March 2nd deadline that it has to be submitted. So we do get these forms emailed from students, saying, oh, I'm supposed to send this in, I have to have my GPA verification submitted, but we do that automatically as long as the student meets those requirements mentioned. If they don't, then we do refer them again to go to their high school and have their high school submitted for them. And the deadline for this form is March 2nd. Next slide, please. So what's next after applying? So once students apply, they do need to create an account with Web Grants. And basically that account, that's where they're gonna verify very important information. CSAC needs to verify, that the GPA was submitted, that the GPA verification was submitted. They often also have the student confirm the following. The student must confirm the school of attendance. So the school that they're attending, for example, Hartnell, or it be a 4-year. They also have to certify their high school graduation date. If they qualify for the CalExam C, then they have to do a supplemental form. And then if they are transfer students, there's a form that's called Transfer Entitlement Certification Form. So all of this, they do it through their Web Grants account. CSAC is very good at emailing students and letting them know what needs to be done. So most students, are very good because if they keep looking at their email, they check their email on a regular basis, they can know what they need to do. Of course, if they have questions, they can come to us. But these are things that they will need to do through their Web Grants account. Also, after they apply, the California Promise Granted process that is implemented into the DREAM Act application, so a student can do the DREAM Act application and that California Promise Grant fee waiver is included. And if they are Cal Grant eligible, the student will be notified monthly what verification documents they need to submit. So our school, or for our Dreamer students, they do need to submit always additional documentation. So they will receive follow-up emails, but it's important that they check their student email because that's where we send them to it. And sometimes they have questions about these documents, so always refer them to our office, as we can help them, let them know and give them more detail about what documents exactly it is that they need to turn in. Next slide, please. So this is some information about the California Student Aid Commission. If you have any questions or if students have questions about the type of grants that they offer, the process, the website is just www.csac.ca.gov. And they have great resources. You can basically find answers to anything there that you might have about the awards, the process, who qualifies, all of that sort of information. And then for the DREAM Act application, you want to go to dream.csac.ca.gov. That's for students who wish to apply. They do have a March 2nd priority deadline, but even if you know any students who haven't submitted it, who missed it for whatever reason, they forgot, they didn't want to do it on their own, they can still submit it. So, let them know over the website, let them know they can still apply. And, we just want as many students to have these resources available and know that it's never too late. Of course, if it comes to a time where we say, well, actually it's at this point, you don't qualify, then we'll let them know, but always, have them just apply regardless. And then for the Web Grants for students, the website is listed there as well, so they can create their account, as that's where they're going to need to certify certain information. If that information is not certified, like I mentioned, like the college they're attending, the high school graduation date, it does delay the process. So they want to be sure that they're on top of that, and keep that information, their login information as well. Next slide. Okay. So I think that is it for me. Okay, so there was the last slide, but I guess it's not showing. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. Again, we're available to help students if you're working with students, or even as staff, faculty, if you have questions, go ahead and just reach out to us, and we'll be more than glad to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fatima, for your information and for being a supporter of our undocumented students. Like Maria mentioned, her staff is cross-trained, but Fatima has really been a great ally in helping us expedite these processes for our students to make sure that we are responding in a timely manner before they kind of freak out, right? When they see those fees, or before they even think of having to ask those questions. We're being proactive through this collaboration that we have with enrollment services and financial aid. Thank you, Fatima. I do want to acknowledge that we are running short on time. We have very rich presentations, lots of resources, and we do have about 3 presentations, very brief, remaining. So I invite you to please join us. I know that we are crossing your time frame, but I invite you to stay with us at least for the next couple presentations. We're almost done. And with that, I would like to welcome Ricardo Nunez from the UFW Foundation.
Thank you, Miriam. Hi, everyone. My name is Ricardo Nunez, and I work with the United Farm Workers Foundation. The United Farm Workers Foundation is a nonprofit organization that was founded by Cesar Chavez in the 70s. It's the sister organization of the union. Next slide. So the United Farm Workers Foundation, the main purpose is to provide the students, staff, and faculty free immigration legal services and outreach services. The immigration services are so many different services that we offer, such as immigration consultations, family petitions, and so many other services that I'm going to be talking about. And also the other purpose that we have is help understand any potential immigration benefit. And also what we do is like that we're trying to increase the chances of obtaining an immigration benefit through an assistance of a qualified legal provider. In the UFW Foundation, we have attorneys and also legal service representatives. And this is extremely important for everyone to set up an immigration consultation, because we do understand like our immigrant community, when they come to the US, sometimes they get a misunderstanding of who can help with this immigration process. And in occasions, they go to another republic which they don't have the capacity or the knowledge to be able to provide those services. So that's why it's extremely important for everybody to understand how crucial it is for them to go to an immigration attorney or a legal service provider. And in the UFW Foundation, we do offer these qualified legal providers. And also, the other purpose that we have is we empower immigrants with the information to navigate the ever-changing systems of the law. And this is super crucial because, as we know, the immigration system is always changing. And under Trump administration, as we know, so many things happen, but now those things are reverting. So it is extremely important for the community to also be alert and be also informing the students that they, if they haven't actually have an immigration consultation within the last year, it is extremely important because things have changed. Just by the way, yesterday the House passed two of the immigration bills, and one of them, it was like the American Dream and Promise Act, which is a benefit that the people or students that have a DACA or can actually benefit, and it's actually working towards a path for citizenship. And the other bill that was passed, it was the Farm Workers Modernization Act as well. So those two bills ended up passing yesterday. That is a great news. And now they're gonna go to the Senate to the vote. But we are very, very hopeful that those things are hopefully gonna pass. And with that said as well, the other things that have changed in the immigration system is the TPS for Venezuelans. So it is extremely important that we also get the word out in the community. The TPS now is available for the Venezuelans. And public charge, it was also reversed from what the Trump administration ended up putting in place. So now it is being reverted, and it is important that so many immigrants, they were not proceeding with their immigration petitions because there was a lack of the public charge. And in the UFW Foundation, we do serve 16 community colleges throughout across the Central Valley. Next slide. And so, who's eligible for the services I already mentioned is the staff and faculty associated with the community college, but also we do extend this service to the family members. Yes, thank you. So the family members, they also might qualify. So, and it is case by case. However, within the organization, we do have other grants that cover most of the California residents. And we encourage just the general community to also to make an appointment. And something important is that if they have, if they're enrolled at least in one class in the community college, they can qualify. Next. So the free immigration legal services, there are offered via Zoom or via phone. And most of the consultations that we are been doing is 90% via Zoom. The other 10% is like most likely like through the phone. And this is due to the COVID, but once everything gets restarted, we're thinking about like we're gonna be on campus, and the dates that we offer those services are the first and the third Thursday of the month from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and the second and the fourth Friday of the month as well from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And the way that they set up an appointment, it can go through the portal that is listed here on the screen. That's how they can access, and they can see the different slots available for the appointments. Okay. Or they can also call the general number. Sometimes it's a little bit more complicated to go through that route, but also we also have the local number that is for the Salinas office. Next. So services that we have is just very important, just the general immigration consultation that allows us to determine who can qualify for what, or if there is any immigration remedy. So it is extremely important, the immigration consultation, because sometimes regardless that they don't have a petitioner or a family member that they can petition for them, there are other immigration routes that they can proceed and follow. The services, the most popular services that we have is DACA First Time, that it got reactivated back in December and is still active. So for DACA First Timers, those ones that they didn't have it before because it was blocked under the Trump administration. And DACA renewals is still also current. Citizenship, family petitions, adjustment of status, the different versions for 245A, 245I, and also U visa adjustment of status. We also do several cases for U visas, T visas, and special immigrant juvenile visas as well. And green card renewals, we are helping as well for that as well. And many more. So, and we always encourage the next mirror. We encourage everybody also to stay tuned with us in the many different platforms in social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, just in case for them, for everybody to be alert of what is happening. Like, for example, yesterday, as the House of Representatives passed the bills, we were like inundated the social media platforms just to inform the community of those bills that have passed. And we have a lot of information in these platforms, but also we have other websites that there can be very helpful for the immigrant community. And Miriam is going to be sharing the PowerPoint among everybody, just in case that you wanna have that information available as well. Are there any questions for me in regards to the services, who can qualify for our services, or any question regarding like the latest changes in immigration?
No questions in the chat box. Thank you so much, Ricardo, for your presentation and for talking about this joint collaboration between the UFW Foundation and Hartnell College. It is extremely an important service for our undocumented students and the staff and the faculty. It highlights, an important need that was out there in our community, and now that we can offer to our students. I would now like to welcome Israel Sanchez, a mental health therapist from our Crisis Counseling and Mental Health Services.
There it is. Hi, everybody. Third time I've been able to do this presentation on behalf of the Crisis Counseling and Emotional Wellness Center. So I'm glad to be here again. If you want to go to the next slide, please. So I'm going to try to make this very quick because I know we're crunching on time. We have five different therapists on staff. Some are MFTs. Some of them are social workers. I believe all of us are occurring hours right now. So, and we have Carol Kimbrough, who's our supervisor, providing a supervision at this time. We also offer bilingual, and at this time we only offer Spanish and English therapy service at this time, and one female, one male. So we do have those as well. Diversifying our team here so we can provide more services to the campus and students in need. We do still offer virtual walk-ins from 11 to 12. We may be doing it remotely or in office. You could also give us a call at 770-7019, and we may be able to answer that if we're here. Most of us are working at home. Right now I'm in the office, but it is individualized, so we're doing both as needed, and obviously as things have been changing during coronavirus and county and state mandates. Go to the next one, please. How do you make a referral? This is the most important part, since everything is phone number is that. Yeah, thank you. So this has been different. We used to, when we used to do face-to-face here, everybody would have their door open if they were able to talk to people or have staff come. It was great to see the staff just bring them here to face-to-face, but obviously since campus is closed, we do encourage the staff to use our online services. So our staff here has been working really hard on trying to make everything virtual, and we were successful in doing that. So we do have online applications. So if you just go to student services, you go to counseling, if you're going to make an academic counseling appointment, you can see right there is also crisis counseling, and it gives you all the information there on how to apply online. You can also email us directly at emotionalwellness@hartnell.edu, and that's kind of the whole team's here main email, but everyone has their own individual email as well. As you see there, our email is right there. When we used to be open, that's our office locations there. We're located in building D. Right now, the doors are locked, so you won't be able to get in here. So this is why it's really good for you to apply or to give us a call if I know there's nursing programs still involved here. So you may want to give us a call. There's an emergency, psychiatric emergency, or if you're just having questions of how to maybe apply or to refer a student at the time, we may be able to answer, or you can just email us and we'll contact you as soon as possible. So please, still staff and faculty and even students here, apply online as soon as possible. Whenever you're interested or feel like you want to have any questions, you have the email there too. Next one. And that's all of us right now on the team. As you can see, there's, like I said before, there's 5 of us. There's our personal emails there. If you'd like, you can email me personally at isanchez@hartnell.edu. And I won't be able to do any type of therapy, but if you're wanting interest in that, please apply. I'll direct you to that. If you disclose some very intimate personal information, I again will have to reply the way I need to, because I'm a mandated reporter. So if there's safety involved, I'll have to do some safety precautions. So mainly the contact is to ensure that we get you into services, so that way you can build a connection with your therapist, and that way you build trust and be able to do your details in your personal and intimate details. Also, we don't ask if you're part of DACA or if you're part of any programs there, if you're undocumented or documented. That's not important for us. The only eligibility criteria that's important is that you're a student here. If you're a Hartnell student, then everyone is welcome to come in. And that's all I have. If you have any questions, please put it down in the chat box and I'll answer them, or we can just do it face to face.
Thank you so much for the information, Israel. It goes to remind us, the importance of the mental health of our undocumented students, and we do have resources on campus to support our students. I do want to talk about our Hartnell Dreamer Fund. A couple years back, the Hartnell Foundation established a Hartnell Dreamer Fund with the intention of supporting our undocumented students and being able to meet those financial needs that are not addressed because of either the lack of financial aid or the lack of resources to finances. Next slide, please, Ms. Adriana. I do want to highlight that we have a Dreamer Fund, like I said, and this Dreamer Fund has allowed us to help our students significantly. We have been able to cover immigration attorney family consultations prior to our collaboration with the UFW Foundation. We are able to currently sponsor our undocumented students who don't meet the tuition exemption forms requirements, meaning those students that are in the AP BP 5030 category. We are able to sponsor them as they reach their goal of becoming eligible for in-state tuition. In the past, we have seen the high need, again, because of the lack of resources, the lack to medical coverage, the need in our undocumented students for prescription glasses. This Dreamer Fund was established to help our students be successful. And if they are having difficulties with their prescription glasses or have old glasses, we want to make sure to support them. So this is one of the items that we cover through this Dreamer Fund. And then one of our most used benefits of the Dreamer Fund for our Hartnell undocumented students is the DACA renewal scholarships. We have been able to support many students renew their DACAs, which cost $495 every 2 years. We are fortunate to be back into the two-year category in terms of renewal, but it's significant help for our students. And now with the extension or reinstatement of DACA, we're able to help those students applying for DACA for the first time as well. And then last, we have our equity and excellence fellowships. Our students mentioned, the lack of opportunity to meaningful professional development opportunities. And through this scholarship, we have been able to connect our students with meaningful opportunities that will help them with their growth. And then again, the Dreamer Fund does support this. Next slide, please. Sorry, Ms. Adriana, back. There was a slide. Let's see. Okay, sorry. Well, I'll just mention it. The way you can become a Dreamer Fund sponsor or supporter is by emailing Nonita Fortman at hartnell.edu and CCing Ms. Dora Sanchez, D. Sanchez at hartnell.edu. Any contribution, whether it's $10, $15, makes a big difference in helping our students. I am happy to help you with this process if you're interested. We do have quite a bit of supporters, but the more the merrier, right? Although there are many funds to support, we're always rooting for our Hartnell Dreamers Fund. Thank you, Ms. Adriana. Next slide. And then I want to talk about another item that is supported by our Hartnell Dreamers Fund, and that is our Hartnell Dreamer Scholarship. As we have heard, there is financial aid that is through the state, but scholarships are available, but sometimes difficult to access for our students. So we do sponsor through the Hartnell Dreamer Fund, the Hartnell Dreamers Scholarship, which again is made possible by our Student Success Fund. And then this is currently open. It opens every March. This is our 4th year doing the scholarship. And these are the requirements. We share it with you because we know that you have direct contact with those students that may or may not necessarily be reaching out to us. Requirements are a 2.5 GPA, enrollment in 6 or more units. The reason we do this is to include those APBP 5030 students who don't necessarily have financial aid and who are wanting to be part of these scholarship opportunities. Students must be a MICASA participant and participate in more events. We know that this is a requirement, that can cause us stress in them, but we understand that their time is limited, but we also want to be able to support them, right? And although it may be a required activity, it is an informational activity. So everything we do with them in mind. We do with the intention of providing them information and resources. And then on here is the link, which you will also find in your resource folder. Our deadline is coming up in mid-April on April 18. So we encourage you to share this opportunity with the students that you come across with. And I was rushing a little through my presentation because I want to respect your time, although we've gone 11 minutes past. Your commitment is evident, and we are excited for what our collaborative future brings in terms of supporting undocumented students and families. Our work does not end here. We invite you to take an initial step towards being an ally of our Hartnell College undocumented students and their families. The Hartnell Dreamer Ally Network helps us build strong relationships of trust with the undocumented community and show that we are here to support them. You can find the Dreamer Ally commitment in the chat box, which I will share in a moment. But I do want to add some additional things to ask from you. You know, we come to the conclusion of this training, and there are things for us to take care of now. We can be visible, but we can also take action. Your feedback is very important as we continue to learn and grow. We ask that you please complete the evaluation that I'll be sharing shortly. And we have a last ask for you. As you may know, 3 years ago, the college became and was selected as part of the Catalyst Campus project to strengthen the services provided to undocumented students and families. Immigrants Rising, the funder of the Catalyst Campus project, and Harder and Company are currently conducting research to see how Hartnell has been supporting undocumented students. So we invite you to take part of the survey to show, you know, the more of us that talk about the services that are in place, the services that are needed, you know, we all have different ideas. We all are here for the same common purpose. So if you don't mind, please, and have extra a few minutes to complete the survey, this will also be in the chat box and in your resource folder. And finally, I would like to thank each of you for your commitment in becoming more informed and aware. Thank you so much for being present here, for taking the time out of your busy schedules to show us support for our students, to show them that we are here and that we are all standing behind them. I appreciate each of you, and I wish you a very great day. I will now go ahead and share the links that I was talking about. Have a blessed day. Please let us know if you have any questions. We're here.